Hey everyone. I imagine people start rolling in now. We'll give everybody a minute to join. If you want to let us know in the chat where you're joining from, I just wanted to welcome you to our first ever PowerChurch Office Hour. So we're glad you're here. It's over the years we've seen how church work never really slows down, even with the best intentions. Your database can get a little messy, duplicated names, outdated events, or contribution funds you might not have touched in years, but we've all been there. My name's Justin Long. I get to serve as the marketing director here at Power Church. Before Power Church, I've been here. Served in ministry for over a decade, which sounds scary to say at this point, but yeah. So I understand the pressure of getting things organized and juggling 10,000 different things, and all while still having the same 7 days a week that everyone else has. But yeah, but luckily, the most important person here is Mr. Thomas. He is the man that knows this software inside and out. He's served as one of our amazing technicians for, let's see, it's over 10 years for you too, right, Thomas?
Yeah, coming up on 11. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, but basically the goal of today, it's not about having a perfect database, as beautiful as that would be. It's about making that information easier to work with so your team can focus on ministry instead of, again, like hunting down that information. When your records are clean, you can trust your data, plan better, and spend less time fixing those mistakes. But yeah, so what you can expect is Thomas will walk us through a few of different ones of our modules and give you kind of a practical list of ways to clean up the people and household records, how to merge records, and just other ways in our software. But he'll walk us through that. And at the end, we'll keep this right under an hour. So the plan's to do 15 minutes of questions and answers at the end. We know we won't be able to get to everybody's questions, but we'll do our best. And if not, then we'll have people to hope you can always call our amazing support team and they'll walk you through it. But yeah, Thomas, you want to take over for?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. This is Thomas. You might have spoken to me on the phone over the course of the last few years. I'm sharing my screen now. So if you're still looking at me, that's the least interesting part here. Now we got a Power Church up on screen to look at. All right. So what I'm going to be talking about first is how to get your membership basically straight and in line, with a focus on getting families set up right with the right people and the right families in the right order. We're also going to talk about activities and how you can choose who's in what activity and maintain your various book clubs and care teams and so on. We're going to talk a little bit about contributions and the different things that you should have set up as contribution funds. And then right at the end, we're going to dip our toes a little bit into accounting and talk about the information that you need to get an accounting system set up from scratch or take an accounting system that was used in the past and get it back on track. So first thing is membership. Right. So one of the main things Power Church does is keep track of your people. You need addresses, you need phone numbers, birthdays. Nice to know who's married to who else, all these different things. And so your very first step with every membership task is you go to membership up at the top and do this very first thing, integrated data entry. Almost every single thing we're going to do is in membership starts with this very first thing, a screen that shows you one household at a time. And you'll see this all through Power Church. There's this button, this little square button up in the top right. And if you click it, it gives you a list of all the different households. And I've just got a little toy Power Church set up here with some fictional people. And we can see all the different individual households here. We've got our Brian and Linda Adams. We've got our slightly misspelled Mr. Robert here and so forth. There's this row of tabs across here with the different information. The only things we really care about here are the first tab where it's got contact, and then the one where it says family members. All right, so let's start here. The Adams family here is actually set up great. They're a good example of how a family is supposed to look. Starting at the very top, we've got our household key, which is the name of the family. You'll see this on a lot of reports. Like as far as your internal records are concerned, this is the Brian and Linda Adams family. I usually recommend, if it's just a single person, have it just be Brian there. If it's a married couple, I would almost always do Brian and Linda as the first name at the household key up at the top here. There's also a second name that each family has, which is the mailing name. Totally fine for that to be the same thing. This is literally what we'll print on a mailing label if you're going to send a letter to this family. And so Brian and Linda Adams is fine. The Adams family is fine. Just it's a matter of personal style. It doesn't matter a bit. And PowerChurch fills in something sensible for you. But that's the very first thing about a family is, does it have the right name? In this case, Brian and Linda Adams. And you can also see here, there's a place to put an address and a home phone number. The other thing about a family is in this other tab here, the Family Members tab, where we can see each individual person, each personal profile that is a member of this family. And we can see here the Adams family has 3 kids. Brian and Linda are the parents. Erica, Renee, and Gerard are the kids. And we can tell here, we can see some important information about these people right away just by looking at this screen, like their personal status. We can see Renee and Gerard are marked as child member, but Erica, being an adult themselves or getting close, they're already marked as a member of the church. And so this is a good looking family, and there's a few different things that could be wrong with a family that you might need to fix up. And I've broken some families just to fix them. So one of them is like the Balu family here. We can see this is another married couple with kids. We can see from that Family Members tab, and we've just got our household key misspelled. We just bam, fix it, hit save, easy. But then there's some other things that require a little paying attention to. Like, here's a really common problem that people have in their membership, especially if it was set up years ago and no one's really paying attention to it. Take a look at the Anthony Baxter family here. We see here, this is set up like it's just one guy, Anthony Baxter. But if we go to the Family Members tab, we've got what I'll sometimes call like a 2-headed profile here. This one person is set up as though their name is Anthony and Tina. And really what you want is Anthony on the first line and Tina on the second one. So from here, from integrated data entry in the Family Members tab, if you just double click on a person, it brings up their screen and maintain personal profiles. You can also go to this directly. In actual practice, I always go to membership and then integrated data entry first and go through the Family Members tab and then double click on them to bring them up. I like to be able to see who is in a family and just kind of check on stuff as I'm on my way. Anyway, so this 2-headed profile, it says Anthony and Tina, but this is really supposed to be one person. So let's just make this guy just Anthony. Make sure that's his birthday there. And then I'm going to close out of here. And bam, now this family shows just Anthony, but we need to add Tina. And so here in this Family Members tab, if you want to do something about who is in what family, that's about these buttons down here. We need to add a new profile to this family. That's this button here. And if you click on that, it comes up with a blank personal profile with just the last name filled in. We are going to create Tina. And now, bam, it's Anthony and Tina, and we're going to rename the family to be the Anthony and Tina Baxter family. And so I know this is not super relevant unless you have this exact problem, but lots of churches do. It's a common entry mistake that people make, and this is one you'll often need to fix. Another common thing you might run into is not necessarily anything wrong, but just something that happens a lot, and that is people moving around. Like, especially if you have members of your church who are getting married or getting divorced, or the single most common thing, a college-age kid moving away. That's also something you do here in integrated data entry. So your first step is always membership, integrated data entry. You bring up the family we're talking about, go to the Family Members tab. And in this case, Erica, she's moving away to college. All right. And so I'm going to use, there's one of these buttons down here below the list of people that says Move Profile. So if I select Erica and move her, I have 2 options. I can either move her to a new family, create a new family for her, which is going to be at college. Or if she were getting married and moving in with somebody else, we would say move to an existing family if we wanted to. But for right now, we're just going to move her out to her new address at 123 College Street. Bam. And now there are 2 families here. There's the Brian and Linda Adams family, where we've got Brian, Linda, and their kids, Renee and Gerard, and then the separate Erica Adams family, because she's now moved out and has her own address. All right. And that's likewise, that's a common one, you know, anytime someone is moving in with somebody else or moving out of somebody else's house, that's the same thing. Like, say Tina, we're moving out, I don't know, we can move Tina Baxter here. We're going to move her into another family, not for any particular reason. I'm going to move her in with Brian and Linda Adams because that's what I feel like doing. And we say yes, and bam, now we have moved Tina Baxter into this family. And that's generally how you do it, that you bring up the family the person is in, and you can hit move profile and then move them into a different family, either a new one of their own or into someone else's. That's also how you handle it if like a husband and a wife were put in separately and you need to correct them together. You move the wife into the husband's family. And then when you're done, it looks like this. You've got each individual person listed here. All right. And so that's the basics. That is the main thing. Almost everything I do in PowerChurch membership starts in membership, integrated data entry. I bring up the family I'm interested in and go to the family members tab. This tells me almost everything I need to know about people. And I want to talk about a couple of particular things that are important about a personal profile. All right, so right now we've just been talking about who's in what family. How do you make sure who's in what family? Is that all good? But the other thing is, and I often describe this to people as the single most important thing in membership. If you're paying attention to one thing in the membership section, it should be personal status. Every individual person in your church has a personal status that is the answer to the question, like, who is this person to the church? And this is the built-in list of options here. We've got things like member, attender, visitor, inactive member. I would usually recommend adding like a former member code here and a deceased code. This is also how you keep track of who's deceased. And in general, keeping track of personal status is super important because almost every report you run and almost every other screen you see in PowerChurch can be filtered based on personal status. And so when you have a good database set up, you want to keep track of all your people, including your visitors, including your former members. But if you're keeping track of who is a current active member with personal status, you can always easily get a list of just members. All right, so I want to talk about two other things that are important about a personal profile. And we can see them all right from here, which is one of the reasons I like this family members screen. Three things that are important about a personal profile. One is personal status, which we just talked about. Who is this person to the church? The other one is this number on the left, which is a little cryptic. But you'll see that number if we double click on a person here, it brings up their profile. That's the number referred to as directory sequence. It's right about in the middle there. This has to do with how families show on the church directory, which is an important one. You know, that's one of the main perks of having a good membership database is you can send out directories to people with folks' phone numbers and addresses, or even just names and pictures. And directory sequence controls who are the adults in the family and who is the married couple at the center of the family. So let's take a look here. Alan and Laura Cunningham are a good example. They have number 1 and 2. Alan and Laura are the two adult humans at the center of this family. They are directory sequence 1 and 2, and their kid is number 3. That's normal. The way it works is the two adults that are the married couple in the family, they should have 1 and 2, and everybody else in the family should have 3 and up. Because otherwise, if you have like a parent at 1 and a kid at 2, it shows them like they're a married couple on the directory. You want to make sure not to do that. And so one important thing about that is if you've got like a single parent. So say Erica Adams is going to have a kid, right? She's going to be directory sequence 1 because she's the grown up here. But if you don't know the name of her husband, you know, we still need to record her kid who she brings to the children's activities. And so we're going to add in Erica's kid, who is, I don't know, Harry Adams, let's say. He's going to be a child of member, and we have to pay attention to directory sequence. He can't be 2 because 2 would be Erica's spouse. We make him a 3. And so this is what it's supposed to look like, a family where you only have the name of one of the parents. Number 1 is the parent. Number 3 and up is everybody else who lives at that address. That the system handles this correctly. If you're in the process of adding a new family, which is the second thing up in membership, you go to membership and add a new family, it asks you this already. You put the adults here, and then the children, and really, you know, even if grandma lives with them, you put her down like she's a kid. And it does this for you correctly. That normally directory sequence is not something you got to pay attention to a lot, but if you've got it wrong, it needs fixing. You want it to look like this, where the married couple is 1 and 2, the kids are 3 and up. Or if there's not a married couple that you know both names of, it's the adult is number 1, the kids and everyone else start at 3, and there is no 2. All right. One more thing, and this is going to be, this links us over to the contribution side. The other thing that's really important about a personal profile is the envelope number. Even if your church doesn't literally send out boxes of printed envelopes anymore, envelope number is like a giver ID number. Everyone who shares an envelope number gets the same statement at the end of the year. Usually that means a married couple share the same one. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody where they file separately and need separate statements. For cases like that, you would just give them different envelope numbers and treat them as separate donors. So say Linda Adams is going to start filing her taxes separately from her husband. We double click on her profile. We're just going to give her a new envelope number. We can make one up or click this button to have the program make one up for us. And now if we close out of here, we see Brian and Linda Adams now have two different envelope numbers. Most married couples will share theirs, common enough to have them separate though. Another frequent thing you'll see is if a kid starts donating, even if it's just like $2 in the collection plate every week, it's good for everybody to recognize that donation and get the kid a statement of their own. And so we do the same thing with little Renee here. Renee's been donating to the church even though she's a kid. We're going to give her a new envelope number of her own just by clicking this little button here on her personal profile. And now she's a separate donor that'll get a separate statement at the end of the year. All right, and so that's the basics of membership. You do everything starting in membership and then integrated data entry. You want to make sure the family has the right name, both at the household key and the mailing name. You want to make sure the family has the right members, including the husband and wife at numbers 1 and 2, everybody else at 3 and up. You want to make sure everyone has the right personal status. Are these people labeled appropriately as members or visitors or what have you? You want to make sure everyone has an appropriate personal status. And you want to make sure that everyone has an envelope number. If they're a donor, they need an envelope number. And if they're donating along with somebody else, like in the case of most married couples like Alan and Laura Cunningham here, they'll have the same envelope number. All right. So that's the membership very basics. And you can get 90% of the way through a good PowerChurch setup just by having people in the right families with the right personal statuses. There's a lot of really useful stuff you can do with that information, running reports, which I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to show you one report, and it's the one report that I recommend the most often in membership. And so you can get to it in this section, Reports Personal Profiles here. It's also in the big list of membership reports. And it's this one here. It's called Selected Names, Addresses, and Phones. This report it's mostly for internal use. It's how you would generate a call sheet of just your members or a list of the addresses of visitors so you can send a follow-up postcard, or a list of any people that you have in the system and any contact information you want to see for them. So when we run this report, it comes up with a big, scary looking selection screen. We're going to ignore most of this. The only thing we really care about most of the time here is personal status up in the top left, where it's got personal status all. Right now, that means it wants to include literally everybody, including my visitors, including my former members. We don't really want that. So I'm going to click on personal status all and tell it we really just want to see members. I'm going to ignore the rest of this and just hit OK. It asks me what contact information. I want all of it. And so this report called Selected Names, Addresses, and Phones, this is now showing me a list of all of the people with the personal status member, because I just filtered to that, and it's showing me all of their contact information. And this is obviously just a super handy sheet to be able to print out and have in a binder or give to your pastor or what have you. And you don't need to include all this contact information. This could be a simple list of names and addresses, for example. Another thing I want to draw your attention to here, without going into a great deal of detail, is you can do almost anything on this selection screen. Like, say I wanted member women under 35, right? So I'm going to filter down to personal status, just member. We'll filter down to gender, female, age, 0 to 35. You don't need to do this stuff, but if you're doing something fancy and you want a list of people, you can just pull that up. And this right here, this much shorter list, these are by my 3 member women under the age of 35. And you can do anything with this report. This is one of the main reasons why you are bothering to go through the trouble of putting in all the people's good addresses and phone numbers and all that, is so that you can get this list of people and know who to call. All right. And that's membership. That is almost everything you need to know about the basics of membership, including families and the people in them. Right. There's another part of membership I want to touch on just briefly, and that is activities and skills. So once you've got your people, a common thing to do in your church is keep track of who does what. Like who is a member of the Bible study, who is a member of this care team, who has volunteered to help with yard work. Anytime the church wants to maintain a list of people, that's the section activities and skills. There's two ways to get at it. First thing is here. You go to membership, activities, and skills, and then the very first thing, maintain activities and skills. You'll see this a lot in PowerChurch. It wants to show you one thing at a time, starting with the first one. Hit the little square button in the top right, just like we did over in the membership section. And it shows you a list of all of these different activities that this church has set up. Several different worship services, different groups for different ages of youth, all this stuff. The main thing you do here, the most important thing is the members tab. Like you can see here, like I bring up the 6th through 12th grade group, and I can see here that 2 members and a teacher are members of this group. And this is the main thing, like the finance committee. These are the people on the finance committee. And you can control that directly from here. So we're in membership, activities and skills, maintain activities and skills. You bring up an activity, you go to the members tab, and just right from here, like David Wells, he resigned from the finance committee. So we're just gonna hit the delete person button right here on the right, and pow, he's no longer a member of the finance committee. Someone replaces him, we hit add person. It's gonna be Carol Balu. She is now a member of the finance committee. And she just pops right in the list. And there's reports you can run on this as well. That all the reports and activities and skills are basically about getting lists of who's in what activity. And that's also something we can help with in particular. I want to show you one other thing about activities and skills. So the main thing is if you've got them, you want to make sure that the right people are in them. And there's 2 ways to do that. One is from here, the membership, activities and skills, maintain activities and skills. And it's in the members tab. You bring up an activity and you can see who is a member of the activity. But there's another way at it. So if we go back to where we started before, membership and then integrated data entry, and we bring up Brian Adams here, our very first guy. I'm going to double click on him like I've been doing to bring up his personal profile. We see the stuff about him like his personal status and so on. One of these tabs up here is activities. And if we click on that, we can see right away which activities Brian is a member of. And we can add him to activities and remove him from activities right from here. And this is the very same information as you see in maintain activities and skills. It works the same way if you do it from either direction. So you can go to the personal profile in the activities section, control what activities this person's a member of, or you can come at it the other way and bring up the activity in maintain activities and skills and then choose who is a member of each particular activity. And that's worth checking out, especially if you're inheriting a PowerChurch that someone's used in the past. It's worth taking a look at your activities and seeing what's going on with them. If you've got one that says finance committee, make sure it's still got your current members of the finance committee on it. If it's a group of 8th graders, make sure those 8th graders are not now 25 years old, that kind of thing. And once you've got that all squared away, you can start doing all kinds of useful things like providing a roster of all the kids in Sunday school to the Sunday school teacher who will be taking attendance. And you can also, again, we can't go too far into the details of it, but once you've done this, you can take attendance, you can run reports on your attendance, and this is all stuff we at PowerChurch Tech Support can help you set up in more detail. And that is it for membership for right now. That just to review, we've got the families, which you bring up in membership integrated data entry. You see the individual people by going to the family members tab from there. Bring up a person by double clicking on them. Pay attention to their personal status, their envelope number, what activities they're in. All right, and that's it for membership. Next thing we're talking about is contributions. So when you're recording contributions in PowerChurch, one of your main goals is to have good records of who's donating to what on what dates, mainly so that you can give out contribution statements for them at the end of the year. PowerChurch can be set up to email those statements to your people as well, which is something we can help you set up. The main thing about contributions, and you've probably seen the enter contribution screen before. It's a good visual aid just for talking about what's up with contributions in general. So you go to contributions and enter contributions, and I'm just going to pretend like I'm entering in some for today. So when you're putting in contributions, there's 4 things about it. One of them's the date. You always use the date of the Sunday. Like if I were entering this most recent Sunday's, what is today? Tuesday. So it would have been the 20th, Sunday the 20th. And so I would do 0720. All right. So when is the first of the 4 things. The other thing is who, the envelope number. You never need to remember those numbers off the top of your head. Whenever you're entering them in, there's this little magnifying glass. You pick the who. It doesn't matter, in the case of people who share an envelope number, like Alan and Laura Cunningham, doesn't matter a bit which one you pick as long as it's the right envelope number. So the date, the person donating, and then the fun part is the fund. What are they donating to? Your church probably has several different options here, like our fictional church does. There's a common tithes and offerings fund, which is just regular unrestricted money. It's money for the church. They can spend it on anything. Some churches will have this split out, like 100 is tithes, 101 is offerings, 102 is pledges. But it's also fine to just have it together as tithes and offerings. And then the other ones we have here are different things that people in the church donate to in particular. Like if someone gives to a missions fund, that's not unrestricted, it's restricted money. It's money that is intended for you to keep track of and spend it only on missions. And you want to make sure they get good credit for that on their statement at the end of the year. All right, so entering contribution, the date, the envelope number, which is who, the fund, which is what they're donating to, and then the amount, which $500 to missions. All right, I'm going to hit save on here. Yeah, absolutely. And so as you go and do that, you'll be entering those in. My usual advice, just while we're in this screen, a piece of advice I give people all the time is when you're entering in contributions, you should do them in batches that match up with real deposits. So the workflow in contributions is first you enter in a batch of contributions and then you post contributions to make it final. My usual advice is when you're entering in contributions, keep an eye on this total unposted down in the bottom right. Like as you enter in more stuff, this total unposted goes up and up and up. Like right now it's $21.34. I'm going to put in another donation. It's going to go, another $600. Now it's $27.34. And so as you enter these in, this total unposted piles up and up and up. And when that hits the amount of your actual final count or the amount of your actual deposit slip, then you know you're done. It's a good way to check your work as you go. And so when you're entering in contributions, you should enter and post them in batches that match real deposits. Don't let weeks and weeks of stuff pile up unposted. Get a batch perfect, post it, move on to the next one. Even if you're doing 6 months worth of work at a time, do it 1 week at a time. Enter in 1 week, post it, move on to the next week. All right. And contributions, the main thing that you'll be doing, not just entering them, but because we're talking about getting a power church back on track after it's had some problems, one of the main things you'll be doing is dealing with that list of contribution funds, the list of things to which people donate. And that setup lives here. You go to contributions up at the very top, then down to setup and maintain list of contribution funds. Okay. And so, like a couple other screens we've seen here, this wants to show you one thing at a time. In this case, one contribution fund. And you hit the little square button in the top right, and it shows us a list of contribution funds, the same ones we saw before when we were entering them in. All right, so some advice about contribution funds is you want to have as few as possible. That it's not great for a church to have there be 50 different little things that people donate to, each of which the church has to keep track of. Because as a nonprofit, you have a legal obligation to keep track of each of those things. If someone donates to Mexico missions, you have to make sure that that money is getting spent on missionary efforts in Mexico in particular. It's separate than the regular missions fund. It's got different restrictions on it. And just in a very broad way, restricted money is worse than regular money, in the same way that a gift card is worse than regular money. You can't spend it on anything. And so it's best for the church to, have most of the donations be tithes and offerings, and it's most common for them to be tithes and offerings. And you want to offer a list of options that the church really does want to steer donations toward. Because there's a risk here. And here's how it goes. Say someone comes to your church and they walk in the door and they decide they don't like the rug in your entryway. And so they write a check and they put in the memo, this is for replacement of the entryway rug. If you, a nonprofit, accept that donation with that restriction on it, you are now on the hook to create a new contribution fund the entryway rug fund. And if that guy just gave you $40, that's not enough to buy a new entryway rug. But if you accepted that donation that he gave with those restrictions on it, now you've got that $40 you can't spend basically ever until you decide you're going to buy a new rug, even if you don't want to. And so it's important not to have all of your money be things like that, that you don't want people in your church donating to a bunch of different things, because it really ties the hands of the church on what they can spend their money on. And there's a tension there. Obviously, you don't want to turn away people who want to donate money to you, but in general, it's best to steer people who want to donate for the gutters, steer them toward a more general building improvement fund if you can. Okay, so some stuff you can do here in maintain list of contribution funds. You can add new ones, like I just did with the entryway rug fund. I just added number 500. The only thing you need to do to start with is just give it a number and a name. There's another step to do if you're also doing the accounting parts of PowerChurch, which I won't get into right now. But if you're just doing membership and contributions, the only thing you need to do is give each fund a good, sensible name, just like you want people to see it on their statement. If you are doing accounting, you have to pay attention to this accounting tab here. We won't be getting into that too much here, but like keep that in your mind. If you are doing accounting, you've got to pay attention to the accounting setup of each new fund when you add it. But for our purposes right here, you just want to control like what are the things you really want people to donate to and present these as the options. If you've got something people don't really donate to anymore and you want to get it off of your list that you use when you enter contributions, one thing you can do here is deactivate. If you just uncheck this active box, like I'm doing for Mexico missions here, that makes it so that when I enter more contributions, Mexico missions stops being an option. I deactivated it, and now it's no longer here as something I can enter more donations for. And so that's a big thing. One other thing you can do if you want to is you can merge funds together. Like say you've got two funds that are really the same thing. Say Mexico missions never really should have been separate anyway. We just wish there were one missions fund we can combine those together. That's also from here. This is the same screen, maintain list of contribution funds. So that's contributions at the top, down to setup near the bottom, and maintain list of contribution funds. And if we see two of them we really wish were just the same fund, we bring up the one we want to get rid of, click this little arrow button to reassign its number, and we reassign it into Fund 200. It wants to confirm that I really want to do this, and makes you type yes. Bam. All right, and then we're done. Those are combined as though they'd always been the same one. And if you need help doing any of this, again, call PowerChurch tech support. Like that's a 90-second phone call. We can walk you through this stuff click by click if you're on tech support. But that's one of the main things about contributions is you want to keep a good list of funds. You don't want to have an over proliferation of funds, and especially you never ever want to have a miscellaneous fund, or ideally, you don't even want to have one that says special offerings. You want to have the name of the fund be the name of the thing the person is donating for. It's always a real problem when people have a miscellaneous or a special offering fund, because 8 months later, it's like, hey, we got $600 for this special offering. What was our special offering for that week? It would be much better if you just, had a guest speaker fund, had a fund for whatever it is you're really gathering money for. Put the real name on it, the thing that people are donating to. And steer clear of miscellaneous and special. You want to be nice and specific. All right, great. We're doing great on time. All right, so far we've talked about membership, including the families and the people in them, making sure that people have the right personal status and envelope number within their family. We've talked about activities and how to see what people are in what activities and move them around and so forth. And we've talked about contributions and just the basics of what you need to be able to enter them in and what's up with contribution funds and how you can control your list of contribution funds by adding new ones, deactivating them, and combining them together. All right, so there's only one more thing to talk about, but it's an enormous thing. It's accounting. And so every accounting system can be a little bit different. And so what I'm going to do is talk in general terms, stuff that is useful no matter how your accounting is. And in particular, so say someone calls PowerChurch tech support and they say, hey, I want to get started on accounting for the first time. Or they call us and say, hey, I just took over this PowerChurch system. We did accounting in it 5 years ago and all the numbers are wrong. Both of those people get the same answer from me. If you want to get your accounting on track, either starting from scratch or rehabilitating your existing system, there is some information you need to gather first. No more visual aids for this part. Hi. So the information you need to gather to get your accounting set up right starts with your bank accounts. You'll need information about your bank accounts and other assets. You'll need information about your liabilities, including any debts the church owes. And you'll need information about the restricted money that people give to, like a building fund, a missions fund. So to start with, its assets. The first thing you'll need to know to get your accounting on track is straight up, what are your bank accounts? What bank accounts does the church have in real life? Not even what they're for, just like, hey, we got these 3 bank accounts with Bank of America. We have a money market account. We have a CD. We have a savings account, that kind of stuff. Let me take a step back. So say you want to get your accounting set up right and it hasn't been. The actual very first thing you do is decide, as of when do I care to get this back on track? That a common thing to do is start as of the beginning of the year. Like, say you need new books, good accounting for 2025. A reasonable answer is January 1st, 2025. But you could also just as easily, if you don't need the whole year's worth of reporting, you could just start mid-year. That would also be fine. And you'd be gathering the information as of the end of June, beginning of July. You could even start as of the very beginning of any month you want. So the first thing is you draw a line on the calendar and you say, on this line, my accounting is going to become correct. Everything after that line, we're going to audit through and make totally perfect as best we possibly can. And then everything before that line is just kind of allowed to stay how it is. It's part of how things were back in the day. And we're going to draw a line. Everything before that line is the old wrong way. On that line, we're going to do a bunch of adjustments and get it right. And then we're going to audit forward and get everything right as far forward as you need really good accounting reports. All right. So the first thing is gathering your asset information. Like I said, bank balances, CDs, money markets, anything you get a statement for that's got money in it. We would need to know, as of, let's say, the very beginning of the year, what does it say on the statement? You probably got a bunch of bank statements dated at the end of December 2024. You would need the balance off of each of those. And then for anything that's a checking account, anything you write checks against, you would need to know what items are outstanding as of that point. Like, so say you're starting January 1st. You would need to know for each of your bank accounts how much money is in them per the bank statement, and also, are there any checks that you wrote in late 2024 that didn't clear before the end of the year? Any items that are outstanding, any 2024 business that's going to be on a 2025 bank statement. And so that's the first thing. You're setting up your accounting, you decide as of when, and for each of your bank accounts, you get a balance from the statement and a list of any outstanding items. Usually only checking accounts have outstanding items. And usually it's mostly checks, though the last Sunday of 2024 was the 29th, and there wasn't a business day before the end of the year. So if you're starting in 2025, it's likely that you'll have an outstanding deposit, as well as some outstanding checks from late in December. All right, so that's the first thing, and getting your accounting set up properly is balances and outstanding items for all your bank accounts. Next up is liabilities, any money the church owes. This includes things that are just really straightforwardly a liability, like a debt, a car note, a mortgage, anything where you owe money and you're paying down that debt as you go. That also I got checked for a moment. That also includes tax liabilities, any money you owe to the federal or state government. If you're withholding money from anybody's paychecks, you would need to know how much money you've withheld and matched that you haven't yet paid to the government. If you're like most employers in America, you probably make that tax deposit for December. You probably make it in the first couple of weeks of January. And so if it sounds like a big question, like what was your tax liability at the end of December? The answer is it's however much you actually paid the government in January. Easy. The other thing as far as liabilities go is a credit card. If your church has a credit card, even if you pay it off every month, you need to know how much you owe as of where your line on the calendar is. For example, like even if you pay off your credit card bill every single month, say you paid it off on the 20th of December and someone used it 2 days later, as your year starts, you owe money on the credit card, even though you're about to pay it off 2 weeks later. All right, so getting started on accounting, that's assets, including balances and outstanding checks, liabilities, including tax liabilities. And then one more thing, and that is, we talked about your restricted contribution funds, the stuff like building and missions and that entryway rug, where people are donating money in particular, and you're obligated to keep track of that because of their wishes. Anything like that, like a building fund, you need to know how much money that is starting out with. Like as of the beginning of the year, how much donated money is left over for the building fund, the missions fund. Not how much has come in, but like how much is left. You might have spent it down to zero. You might have $1,000 just. And my usual advice is, especially if you haven't been tracking that in your bookkeeping, the best way to find that information is ask whoever is in charge of the missions fund. Ask whoever is in charge of the youth group. Because you don't want to start off your new accounting by like accidentally stealing $600 the youth gathered for a field trip or something. You want to make sure that all of the money that has been earmarked by donors stays earmarked. You want to have those good starting balances. And that is literally it. If you want to get your accounting started, you need statement balances and outstanding items for all of your assets. You need liabilities, including how much you owe on your mortgage, your car note, your credit card, and your taxes as of the beginning. And you need to know how much money has been set aside by your donors for various restricted purposes and has not yet been spent. And if you call PowerChurch Tech Support and say, hey, I want to get my accounting started and or fixed, and I already have all the information that Thomas said to gather, we'll be very pleased, and that'll be a nice quick phone call, and we'll be able to help you out. We also don't mind repeating this stuff either. But that is it. That is all that I wanted to cover as far as the initial talking part of the seminar, is keeping track of members, including families and individuals, personal statuses and envelope numbers and activities, contributions, including a good list of funds, and the information you need to get your accounting set up, which includes balances and outstanding checks for your bank accounts, liabilities, and the balances for any restricted funds. All right, and that's it. I'm done. Question time.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we've got a good number of questions, which still put them in the chat if we have we won't have time to get to all of them probably by the end of the hour, but again, our support team's here for you if you have the support plan to give us a call. And hopefully this won't be the last of these. We hope it's been helpful for you, but let's start with a couple membership questions. So this might be two good ones to go over together. So it's one was, what if a married couple with different last names?
Gotcha. And that's real easy. So the only thing that's tricky here is, what do you put as the household key? Like, say Linda's last name were Smith instead, right? So first thing is, we're going to make sure she individually has the right name. So we go to the family members tab, and she is now Linda Smith. That alone is like 90% of the way there. So This is a judgment call. There is not one right way to do this. This is probably what I would do.
Can we share your screen real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I stopped sharing my screen. Silly me. I'm doing things like you can see them. There we go.
I love your outfit though. It's great. It looks good. That's good.
No, absolutely. It's got little birds on it. All right, back to our screen sharing. There we go. I believe you can all see my demo PowerChurch here. So what I've done here is I've just gone in and I brought up Linda Smith and I renamed her. So now she is Linda Smith. And right now this is not. We see Brian Adams and Linda Smith. They're 1 and 2 in the family. And we put Adams/Smith as the last name. You could also just reasonably have Smith there. It's fine, because the main place where you'll be seeing things like this is on church directories. And PowerChurch just handles this right without you having to pay a lot of attention to it. I'm going to run a church directory right now. The church directory is a report, just like selected names, addresses, and phones that I showed you before. It's actually right below it on the list. And it's a big, complicated one with a ton of different options. I'm just going to kind of next my way through and talk about it. So on the second screen, check this out. Print extra listing for spouses with different last names, which is just what we want to do here. I'm just going to kind of next my way through. I want to include everybody, and I'm not changing any of these settings here at all. I just hit next all the way through. And take a look at what this does to this. So Adams, Brian, and Linda Smith is what this shows in the directory. And it lists Tina, Renee, and Gerard, who live with them. But if we go down to the S's, there's also an entry for, well, it'll be on the next page, I think. Yes, Smith, Linda, C, Adams, Brian. And so the system is smart enough to do that right away. The only thing you need to do, really, the only thing you must do to make this work is you must have the people have the right names. That's all. That Brian Adams and Linda Smith, the thing that made this work right is just that we had the right name for each individual person, and there's no other particular trick to it.
Awesome. And let's see, the question here is, so say when we were talking about the family unit there, so what if the father's not a member, or if someone's single?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's our Erica Smith example here, or Erica Adams rather. So Erica Adams here is set up like you would a single mother or someone where you just know one name of the parent and not the other. We see Erica Adams here is number 1, and her kid Harry is number 3. This is the important thing about tracking single parent households like this, that you can't have Harry the kid at number 2. Harry would show up like a spouse on the directory. And so you just need to make sure that this setting here, directory sequence, is how it shows on the personal profile. Kids start at 3, no matter what. So parents are 1 and 2, and if there's only one parent you know about, 1. Kids and everybody else are 3 and up, and that's how you make that work correctly.
Awesome. And let's see, we have a question about, so someone asked, we track attendance, just the number of people in worship, not the individuals. Is there a place that you can enter the number of attendees each Sunday in PowerChurch?
Yes. All right. So we're going to have to talk a little bit about what attendance looks like normally here. So check this out. I'm going to go and take attendance right now. You go to membership, attendance, and then the first thing in attendance is fast data entry, where it wants you to choose what activity you're entering attendance for and what date you're entering that attendance for. You just hit OK. And bam, there we go. And so this shows us an attendance list. Some people are already marked present or absent. That's that P and A here. But if you weren't doing that, you could have an activity set up with, whatever members you want, and just don't bother marking people as absent and present. Leave everybody as absent and just put in this number here. 56 people in church. Done. Yes. And that's how you do that additional present count. So when you're entering attendance on the same screen where you would be taking detailed attendance, the fast data entry screen, you also have an option to put in the additional present count. This would be like, if you're taking real attendance, you would mark your people as present, and then there are 13 other people there whose names I don't know. But you can also just skip taking regular attendance. Just put in only the additional present count as the count of people who attended, and that still shows up on most of your attendance reports. Without getting into too much detail, there's a good handful of reports that are just about attendance. And the ones that are like detail weekly attendance, average attendance, activity statistics, all of these reports that show totals, they'll show you that what you put in for additional present count. So that's awesome. How you do that.
And real quick, so while you're on that, so it's someone connected question, what would be the best way to print a worship attendance form that has each family member listed?
Oh, you're in luck. All right. So this is one of those attendance reports. This is the one I recommend the most often, the most useful report in attendance and activities and skills combined. So you go to membership, attendance, reports attendance, and it's this one at the very top, the attendance register form. This has a few different options here, like a church directory does. So you can get a simple checklist of names here. But you've also got I really like weekly column format, because you can print one of these out and use it for a month instead of printing out a new one every week. And you can have a really detailed one where it includes all of their medical information if you're tracking that. Let's just go with name only. It's the default. We go next. We choose what activity we want. We would narrow it down to Sunday morning service 1001 to 1001. We choose the date to print at the top. Ignore the rest. And we get this handy report here. This is a report of just people who are members of activity 1001. We can run this report for any activity, and it looks just like this. It's intended to be worked with a pen. And you can also, if you do the weekly column thing, you can get a real similar report where it, I forgot to have it do multiple columns, but you can have it in different formats if you want. And these are all different options on the attendance register form. So if you've got activities set up, then you can go into membership, attendance, reports attendance, and run the attendance register form to get that printout that you need.
Awesome. And so let's say there's a joint custody situation. Can a child be listed under both parents, or what would be the best practice for that?
I normally would, yeah. That it's something you have to be aware of, like it'll increase your count of people. But if you got a case where a kid's being passed back and forth between households, it's much easier just to have them listed as a family member in both households.
So that would create a duplicate
It
entry for
would
both.
effectively create a duplicate, yes, but that's just the best way to handle it. If there's not one main address for the kid, put them under both. Just at the very least, so they show up under both parents' names on the church directory.
Okay, and we've got a few contribution questions. So first
Sure.
one would be, how can you deactivate a family in contributions without losing contribution info so we don't see them anymore in the contribution section?
Cool. That's a question with an answer, but a slightly complicated one. So if we want to retain the specific contribution records, but also get them out of our face and stop seeing them on reports, there's a setting to do that. So it's in the contribution settings. I'm going to go to contributions and then down to setup and then contribution setup. This is a page you don't go to a lot, but it's for making decisions about how things work. The contribution setup. And the setting we're looking for is this: inactive envelope number range. And this is a little involved. Please call tech support if you need details on this stuff. But how it works is, in PowerChurch, people can have an envelope number from 1 all the way through 99,998. And so what we do is we'd say, well, okay, how about anyone with envelope numbers in the 10,000s? We're going to make them inactive. So I'm going to say 10,000 through 19,999. This is now the inactive range. Nobody has a number in that range right now. Everybody's got numbers in the low 100s. But anyone who did have an envelope number in that range would be inactive and stop showing on reports. So step 1 is we establish this range, and then step 2 is we move people into it. So say we had someone we wanted to deal with that way. You go to contributions at the very top, and then reassign an envelope number. This is useful for other things as well. This is how you can move people around, combine envelope numbers, and so on. But this is also how you would make someone inactive in the way you're asking. You reassign an envelope number. I'm going to reassign Yvonne Davis, who no longer goes here. And I'm going to give her a number in that range that I set up. I'm going to give her envelope number 10,001. Save and close. Bam. And so now she's envelope number 10,001. She still has her history. We can bring her up and maintain donors. And Yvonne Davis is still here, right? Still there. We can still see her history. Shows on reports for dates where she donated. But when we go to enter contributions, she's no longer there as an envelope number option. No D's at all. And that's what that does. So that's the best way to make someone inactive in that particular way, is in the contribution settings, you establish an inactive envelope number range, and then you reassign. You have contributions and reassign an envelope number to move people into that range and make them stop showing up in that way.
Awesome. Let's see. So we have the question of, can you delete contribution funds after something's been posted to it through a contribution?
Generally, no. Generally, if it's part of your paper trail, you can't get rid of it entirely. Like, check it out. I'm going to try deleting tithes and offerings here. I say, yes, I'm sure, and it tells me I can't because posted data exists. There's 2 ways around this. Well, there's more than 2. There's 3 ways around this. One is the thing we did to Mexico missions. Notice Mexico missions, it used to exist and it had history and data and everything, and it's gone because we merged it into the regular missions fund. And so that's one thing you can do. If you want to have fewer funds, you can combine them together. That's only a wise thing to do if you've got a bunch of things that are basically the same thing. You don't want to combine unlike things. So one option is combining. One option is deactivating. That's what we did with one of these other ones, I think. No, I'm going to deactivate entryway rug. I don't want more people donating to that. You just uncheck this active box and hit save. It's still in your list. It's still in your history. To stop showing up for entering more. All right. Neither of those are really how you delete a contribution fund. If you've got a contribution fund with history and you want it gone, one thing you can do is you can clean out your history entirely. So a piece of advice I give people a lot is your church should have a records retention policy. Should have a policy that you keep detailed records for 5 or 7 or 10 years. It doesn't really matter exactly what it is. I think the IRS has a recommendation, but whatever it is, you should form a policy and stick to it. And if you're getting rid of all the contributions older than 10 years, there's a button to do that in PowerChurch. I don't want to get too far into it because I really don't want people doing this without tech support on the line because it's playing with a power tool. But you can use this delete old data function and like clear out all the data before 10 years ago. And then you can delete any contribution fund that hasn't been used since then. That's obviously a more extreme option than either of the other ones, merging or deactivating. But those are really the answers. If you've got a contribution fund with history and you wish you didn't, you can merge it into another one if there's an appropriate one to merge it to, deactivate it, or if it hasn't been used for a great number of years, you can delete all of your data before that and delete all the contribution funds that have not been used since then.
Awesome. And so should we close the year before starting with a clean balance sheet?
That's a complicated question. Okay, so the thing in PowerChurch where you close a month and close a year, where you go to fund accounting, close month, this does not do much. If you hit close month, I tell it to close April 2025. Yes, I do want to continue. This doesn't change anything for me. All it does is make it so I can't post more stuff to April. And it closes that door behind me, but I can just open it again if I want. There's a way to reopen months. And so the short answer is closing a month is not important. You don't ever need to do it. And if you forgot to close a month for your entire time using PowerChurch, nothing bad would ever happen. Closing a month is something you do for your own convenience to make sure you don't accidentally put stuff into old months. As far as getting a clean balance sheet, like, depends on what you mean by clean. Like, your balance sheet sticks around year to year. You know, your bank balance doesn't reset. Your building fund doesn't reset. Your mortgage doesn't reset. Your balance sheet flows from year to year and doesn't zero out. As far as if you're just talking about how to get a correct balance sheet, the answer is, say you want to